It was the autumn of 1985 when the Harper family moved into the old farmhouse at the edge of Willow Farm. The house, a sprawling structure with creaking floors and faded wallpaper, had been a local landmark for generations. Mr. and Mrs. Harper, along with their two children, Emma and Noah, were enchanted by its rustic charm and the promise of a fresh start away from the city's hustle and bustle. Life on the farm started peacefully enough. Days were filled with the sounds of roosters crowing, cows mooing, and the children's laughter as they explored the vast fields. But, as the weeks passed, strange occurrences began to unsettle the family. At night, Emma and Noah heard whispers in the walls and footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. Objects would move on their own, and cold spots appeared in the warmest rooms. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the farm, Noah spotted a figure in the cornfield. A tall man, dressed in old-fashioned overalls, stood motionless among the stalks. Noah called out, but the figure vanished without a trace. When he told his parents, they dismissed it as his imagination, but Emma believed him. Together, they decided to investigate. While exploring the farmhouse's attic, Emma and Noah discovered a hidden door behind an old bookshelf. The door creaked open to reveal a small, dusty room filled with antique furniture and a stack of faded letters. The letters, written by a woman named Eliza, spoke of her love for a man named Thomas and the tragic loss of their child. The last letter ended abruptly, hinting at something sinister. Emma and Noah brought the letters to their parents, who recognized the names. Thomas and Eliza had lived on Willow Farm over a century ago. Local legend spoke of their tragic deaths. Thomas had gone mad with grief after their child's death and had killed Eliza before taking his own life. The farmhouse had been empty for decades, considered cursed by the locals. As the family delved deeper into the farm's history, the hauntings grew more violent. The whispers turned into cries, and the footsteps became thundering bangs. One night, Emma woke to find Eliza's ghostly figure standing at the foot of her bed, tears streaming down her translucent face. She whispered, "Help him," before disappearing. Desperate for peace, the Harpers sought help from a local historian who specialized in the supernatural. He suggested a ritual to release the trapped spirits. The family gathered in the hidden room, reciting the historian's incantations and lighting candles around Eliza's letters. As they completed the ritual, the temperature dropped, and the candles flickered wildly. Suddenly, Thomas's ghost appeared, raging and wailing, his form distorted by anger and sorrow. Eliza's spirit materialized beside him, reaching out with a gentle hand. She whispered soothing words, calming his fury. The air grew still, and the two spirits embraced before fading into the light. The farmhouse returned to its peaceful state. The haunting ceased. The Harpers restored the hidden room as a small memorial to Thomas, Eliza, and their child. The family thrived, the farm prospered, and the whispers of the past became a gentle reminder of the lives that had once touched Willow Farm. Years later, Emma and Noah, now grown, often visited the farmhouse with their own families. The legend of Willow Farm became a tale of love and redemption, a story passed down through generations. The Harpers had turned a haunted house into a home filled with warmth, love, and new memories. In the spring of 1992, the Mitchell family relocated to Green Hill Farm, an expansive estate that had been abandoned for decades. The farmhouse, though dilapidated, held a certain charm that appealed to John and Sarah Mitchell. Their children, Lucy and Ben, were less enthusiastic, but the promise of adventure lured them into exploring their new home. From their first night in the farmhouse, the Mitchells were disturbed by strange noises. The clatter of chains, muffled screams, and ghostly wails echoed through the halls. At first, John dismissed it as the house settling, but the sounds grew more persistent and disturbing, keeping the family awake at night. One foggy morning, Lucy saw a figure in the barn. A woman in a long, white dress, her face obscured by her flowing hair. When Lucy approached, the figure vanished into thin air. She told her parents, who attributed it to her imagination. However, Ben soon had a similar encounter, and the family began to worry. While cleaning out the attic, Sarah discovered an old diary hidden beneath the floorboards. It belonged to Margaret Greenhill, the farm's original owner. The diary detailed Margaret's life, her love for a man named Edward, and her despair after he mysteriously disappeared. Her final entries spoke of a haunting presence and her fear for her life. Curious and frightened, John and Sarah delved into the history of Greenhill Farm. They learned that Edward had been accused of treason during the Civil War and was executed on the farm. Margaret, heartbroken and shunned by the community, lived out her days in isolation. Local lore suggested that her spirit, along with Edward's, still roamed the farm, seeking justice and peace. The ghostly encounters intensified. Doors opened on their own, mirrors shattered without cause, and the chilling cries of a woman echoed through the night. The children refused to sleep alone, and the family's fear grew with each passing day. Desperate, the Mitchells contacted a paranormal investigator. The investigator conducted a seance, hoping to communicate with the spirits. During the seance, Margaret's spirit appeared, pleading for help to reunite with Edward. She revealed that his unjust execution had bound their souls to the farm. The investigator suggested a ritual to cleanse the farm and reunite the spirits. The Mitchells gathered in the barn where Edward was executed, following the investigator's instructions. As they chanted, the air grew cold, and a spectral figure of Edward appeared. Margaret's ghost joined him, and the two spirits embraced, their forms glowing with an ethereal light. With a final, grateful glance at the Mitchells, the spirits of Margaret and Edward faded away. The farmhouse returned to a state of calm. The paranormal activity ceased, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The Mitchells felt a profound sense of peace, knowing they had helped bring closure to the tormented spirits. Greenhill Farm flourished under the Mitchells' care. The family grew closer, bonded by their extraordinary experience. They restored the farmhouse and created a small museum dedicated to Margaret and Edward's story, ensuring their legacy would be remembered. The farm became a symbol of love, resilience, and the power of family. In the summer of 2001, the Smith family purchased Oak Hollow Farm, a sprawling estate with a storied past. The farmhouse, surrounded by ancient oak trees, exuded a haunting beauty that captivated James and Laura Smith. Their teenage daughter, Emily, and young son, Ethan, were eager to start their new life in the countryside. Shortly after moving in, Emily found an old locket buried in the garden. Inside was a faded photograph of a young woman. That night, she dreamt of the woman who warned her to leave the farm. The next morning, Emily dismissed it as a vivid dream, but the sense of unease lingered. As the days passed, strange events plagued the Smiths. Ethan spoke of an invisible friend named Lily who played with him in the orchard. Laura saw fleeting shadows out of the corner of her eye, and James heard disembodied voices calling his name. The family grew increasingly anxious, but they decided to stay, hoping the disturbances would pass. While exploring the attic, Emily discovered a trunk filled with old documents and photographs. Among them was a journal belonging to Abigail Turner, the farm's original owner. The journal detailed her tragic life. Accused of witchcraft, she was hanged by the townspeople. Her dying curse condemned the farm to be haunted by her restless spirit and the spirits of her accusers. The hauntings grew more intense. Abigail's ghost appeared in Emily's room, pleading for help to break the curse. Shadowy figures roamed the halls, filling the house with an icy chill. The family sought answers from the local library, uncovering more about Abigail's unjust trial and the dark history of Oak Hollow Farm. One night, during a violent thunderstorm, Abigail's spirit appeared before the entire family. She revealed the location of a hidden graveyard where the bodies of her accusers were buried. Abigail implored the Smiths to perform a ritual to release their tormented souls and lift the curse from the land. Determined to end the haunting, the Smiths followed Abigail's instructions. They gathered at the graveyard under the light of the full moon, chanting the incantation Abigail had given them. As they completed the ritual, a powerful wind swept through the clearing, and the spirits of the accusers rose from their graves, facing Abigail's spectral form. The air crackled with tension as the spirits confronted Abigail. She forgave them for their actions, and with a final, sorrowful wail, they vanished into the night. Abigail's spirit, at peace at last, thanked the Smiths and faded away, leaving behind a sense of tranquility that had long eluded the farm. The curse lifted, the farmhouse transformed, the oppressive atmosphere dissipated, replaced by a feeling of warmth and welcome. The Smiths restored the old house, honoring Abigail's memory and ensuring her story was not forgotten. The farm prospered, and the family found happiness in their new home. Oak Hollow Farm became a symbol of redemption and resilience. Emily documented their experiences, sharing the story of Abigail Turner and the farm's haunting history. Visitors came from far and wide to see the once cursed land, now a beacon of hope. The Smiths' courage had turned a place of sorrow into a sanctuary of peace and remembrance. In the winter of 2010, the Davis family moved into Crescent Farm, a remote property with a majestic farmhouse that had stood empty for years. Jack and Claire Davis, along with their children, Sophie and Lucas, were excited about their new adventure, despite the farm's eerie reputation. On their first night, Sophie and Lucas heard whispers and laughter coming from the basement. When Jack went to investigate, he found nothing but old furniture and cobwebs. Claire brushed it off as the house settling, but the children were unconvinced. While unpacking, Claire discovered an old photograph hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. It showed a family standing in front of the farmhouse, their faces solemn. The back of the photograph was inscribed with the words, "The Cresswells, 1895. Intrigued, Claire began researching the history of the farm. In an antique chest in the attic, Claire found a diary belonging to Mary Cresswell, the daughter of the original owners. The diary revealed a tale of joy turned to tragedy. Mary's twin brother, Samuel, had drowned in the nearby river, and soon after, the family was plagued by inexplicable events and sightings of Samuel's ghost. The hauntings at Crescent Farm became more frequent. Sophie and Lucas saw the ghosts of Mary and Samuel in their rooms at night, their faces pale and sorrowful. Mary's spirit appeared to Claire, begging for help to free her brother's soul, trapped by their parents' grief and anger. Desperate to understand the hauntings, Claire visited the local historical society. She learned that the Cresswells had become reclusive after Samuel's death, their once thriving farm falling into disrepair. Rumors of curses and spirits surrounded the property, driving away potential buyers for decades. Determined to help the spirits, the Davises invited a medium to the farmhouse. During the seance, Mary's spirit communicated through the medium, revealing that Samuel's ghost was bound to the farm by their parents' unresolved guilt and sorrow. The only way to free him was to perform a cleansing ritual at the river where he had drowned. On a cold, moonlit night, the Davises performed the ritual at the river bank, following Mary's instructions. They recited prayers and cast flowers into the water, asking for Samuel's spirit to be released. As they finished, a soft glow appeared over the river, and Samuel's ghost emerged, finally free. With Samuel's release, the spirits of Mary and her parents appeared, thanking the Davises for their help. The farmhouse, once filled with sorrow, felt lighter. The Cresswell spirits embraced before fading away, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure. Crescent Farm thrived under the Davises' care. The haunting ceased, and the farmhouse became a warm, inviting home. Sophie and Lucas often played by the river, feeling a connection to the spirits they had helped. The story of the Cresswells and the Davises' bravery became part of the farm's rich history, a testament to the power of love and forgiveness.